In this video, I'm going to show you how to complete the second Jamovi project. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to load the Jamovi file 241S97, and that is in Files, Jamovi Project Files. And then we're going to look at confidence intervals and t-tests here. So you're going to go to the analysis menu, look at t-tests and one sample t-test, and we'll generate a confidence interval for the variables exam 1, 2, and 3. So here's how you'll do that. So we are going to go to Analysis, click on the Analysis tab, and then t-tests, and then one sample t-test. And then we're going to take those three variables and we'll move them all over. And you'll see that it displays the statistic, degrees of freedom, and p-value. That's for a one sample t-test. So this is the test statistic here. To do a confidence interval, you're going to click on mean difference. And the mean difference is the difference between that, the mean and the test value, in this case 0. So that's the mean. So mean difference when your test value is 0 is the same as mean. And then click on the confidence interval radio box. And then also click descriptives. That will go ahead and give you your mean, median, standard deviation, and then standard error of the estimate. So notice here our means are the same as our mean difference because it's difference with 0. Here is our lower confidence limit, upper confidence limit. So you're going to do those and enter them into the blanks here, along with mean, standard deviation, then the width of the interval. So the width of the interval is just going to be upper minus lower. So that's confidence intervals. And then I'm going to have you answer some questions about what happens to the width of the interval. And then we're going to look at a we're going to notice here that Jamovi confidence intervals are slightly different than what we did in class because they're always using the t-distribution. So we're not using the z-distribution. So then the next thing you're going to do is vary your confidence level, 80, 90, 95, and 99, and see what happens to your lower bound, mean, upper bound, and your width of the interval. So that's right here. So right now the default is 95%. So to get those other confidence levels, you're just going to overtype here. So these are the 80% confidence. Now, if you want, in addition to this, if you want, 80, 90, 95, etc., if you want all that output, again, you're going to go back to Data, click back to Analyses, t-tests, one sample, and then it starts a new one sample window. So then move your variables over again, click on mean difference, confidence interval, and up here we've got 80% confidence, so say now we want 85. So now we've got the information for 85. Go ahead and click on descriptives again and redo that process for, you're going to do 80, 90, 95, and 99. So you can do that 4 times and then tell me what happens to the width as your confidence level increases. So to get the width again, you're going to have to subtract upper minus lower. And then we're going to compare doing things by hand to what Jamovi does. So this is by hand with the z-distribution, by hand with the t-distribution. And you'll enter your intervals in here, lower here, upper here, and then which one is closest. This is again for the 95% confidence, which one's closest to the Jamovi answer. So, and that's just for the exam 1 data. So that you can just put into your calculator. Well, actually we don't need to. You can find your mean and your standard deviation and your sample size from the Jamovi output here. You've got mean, standard deviation, and as your sample size. So you actually don't need to put that in the calculator. So you'll enter that information in here and compute your confidence intervals both ways. Now to do confidence interval for population proportion, you have to change your data to binomial data, where 0 is a failure and 1 is a success. So let's go ahead and open the data file, Jamovi file binomial.omv. So it's binomial data, 20 successes out of 50 trials. So here is that data. And to generate the confidence interval that we're interested in, this is if you do it by hand, and then we want to do it from Jamovi. Just going to do the same steps that we did before. So we're going to go to Analysis tab, t-test, one sample t-test. Going to take our binomial and move it over. Click on mean difference, confidence interval, and descriptives. And here's our confidence interval. And then here's our descriptive, standard deviation, standard error. So you're going to fill that information in here. So that is confidence intervals. So what about hypothesis tests? So if you do hypothesis tests, let's open the file 241S97. So here I just switched back to our Jamovi window. We want to look just at exam 3 for this. So I'm going to click back to data, click to analysis, t-test, one sample t-test, and now it started a new one sample grouping in the results window. We're just moving exam 3 over. So you guys will do exam 3. I'm going to do exam 2 for practice. So you'll do just exam 3. I'm doing just exam 2. We are going to click on mean difference again. Not confidence interval this time, but test value we need to change. So you are going to test against a mean of 70, mean of 69, and a mean of 68. Put in your test statistic, degrees of freedom, and two-sided p-value. So for a test value of 70, we'll just go down here, test that against 70, press enter. This is a two-sided p-value that we're given because it's a not equal test. And our test statistic, 5.57, degrees of freedom 54, and p-value less than 0.001. So that will go in here, here, and here. And then do the same thing, changing the 70 to 69 and then 68. Except remember to use exam 3. I used exam 2. And then the X-bar, the sample mean for that test, you can get that from your previous runs here. Here we did descriptive statistics, so there you've got the mean value for each of your 3 tests. And then we want to look and try and see what happens to the test statistic as the values of the mean are moved farther away from X-bar, the sample mean, and then what happens to the p-value as the mean that we're testing against and X-bar move farther apart. So looking at patterns there. And now we want to look at, for the 3 tests that we did previously, which ones would reject H0. So we've got a two-sided p-value here, a greater than and a less than p-value, and then what the conclusion is. So remember, if p is less than alpha 0.05, then you will reject. So if we go back to our data here, this is, again, you're doing exam 3, I'm looking at exam 2. So for exam 2, and we're testing against 70 here, our p-value is less than 0.001, we would reject the null. So in here, I would put my less than 0.001 and conclusion reject H0. For a greater than test, I just click the radio button, switch to greater. My p-value is still the same. And then for the less than test, click the less than radio button. And then record your p-value there. So in this case, my p-value is 1, and so we do not reject. So for exam 2, I would put less than 0.001 reject, less than 0.001 reject, and 1.0 do not reject. Or I'm sorry, across here. Less than 0.001 reject, greater than was less than 0.001 reject, 1.0 do not reject. And then do the same thing, changing your mean to 69. So then you'll go down here, change this to change your 70 to 69, and then do the two-sided, reject, upper, reject, and lower, do not reject. So that'll fill in this table. And then you're going to calculate by hand the p-value for each of the test statistics for the 3 two-sided tests. So these 3 two-sided tests, you want to calculate by hand your test statistic and then your p-value. So your test statistic, again, is x bar minus mu divided by s over root n. That's your test statistic. And then your two-sided p-value, which is 2 times TCDF is what you're going to use there. So just doing it on the calculator. And then you want to explain any differences in these p-values compared to p-values that you found in Jamovi. So the p-values that we had up here. And that will wrap up the second Jamovi project. And again, you will upload your Jamovi file and upload this worksheet filled out. So 2 times normal CDF. And we're using normal here because it was a large sample size in our data. So, and then you're going to compare those to the p-values that you found up here and explain any differences. So that will wrap up project 2 for Jamovi.